I've spent a lot of time in the UK over the last 10 years between studying abroad in Wales and going back multiple times with my wife Lexi for visiting. In that time, we've both developed a lot of love for this corner of the world. In this video, I will discuss all those things that Lexi and I have grown to love, as well as stay tuned for my fifth one, as that is probably my favorite thing about the UK, and I hope maybe you'll cherish it too. Let's start with the obvious one, which is the great people that are in the UK. Now, I included the great people for multiple reasons, but let's just start with the fact that they are just great people to be around. So many of them are willing to have conversations with you about numerous topics, whether it be about politics or sports or family, and a lot of times it can be done while sharing a few pints at the same time. And their willingness to learn about your culture and their willingness to teach you about theirs is such a breath of fresh air. I can remember sitting in numerous pubs where we're just kind of relaxing and minding our own business, and we get approached by some locals and we just strike up great conversation between the two of us, and it leads to some really fun times. Another really cool thing about it is they can recommend to you some places that maybe didn't come up in your research, because honestly, they're the people you can trust the most in those circumstances. And as you do get to know them a little better, you might be surprised at the awesome things that they eventually tell you. And that brings us to the second thing that I love about the UK, which is the language and the banter. And throughout these conversations, as you start to really get to know each other better and better, the banter will slowly start to slip in and really start to shine. Now, the Brits are naturally quite sarcastic and funny beneath that stereotypical layer of their formality. And the hint to you when that sarcasm starts to rise and become a little bit more banterous, it means you probably just found yourself a friend. When Lexi and I were sitting in a pub in London, it did not take long between the patrons next to us to really strike up a really good banter between us and really just have a great time making fun of each other. Now, that was actually when I could understand what they were saying. That is a tough thing sometimes when you're in the UK and you are American, is some of the dialects and accents can be a little bit tricky to understand. They also like to use really fun phrases that we just simply do not use over here. So if someone says something and you're not sure what it means, just feel free to ask. They'll probably explain it to you. And honestly, the amount of accents that are littered throughout the aisles is insane to me, because you could have someone who speaks completely different between Manchester and Liverpool, and that could be completely different into the multiple areas of London and all the way up in Newcastle. It's just insane how you can have so many different accents. So just keep in mind, you might have to pay a little bit more attention to really understand the words that they're saying to you. Now, as I mentioned before, the pub is a great way to meet locals and have really good conversation, but the overall pub scene is one of those amazing things, and I truly love it whenever I'm in the UK. Whether it be sitting and having a pint and enjoying that conversation, or watching the football or rugby matches on the television. And another reason to love the pub culture and the pub scene is that there is live music often playing at these pubs. Like, it is so fun to just kick back, relax, sip on whatever you want to sip on, and just listen to music and relax. The overall ambiance and experience is truly just a great time, and you can enjoy it with the people that you're with. Try some new beers. Like, there is so many great beers across the UK, so whatever region you're in, look up that area and look at what breweries are in that region and try some of their local beers, because they are fantastic. Now, another thing you can indulge in while you're in these pubs leads me to my next thing that I love, which is the food in the UK. Now, a lot of times it gets a bad rap, like with the whole spices. You guys know the joke, and sometimes the UK can have some food that isn't always the most seasoned in the world, but they have some really great pub foods, as well as some other food in general. To give you an idea of some of the foods that I've grown to love, you've got fish and chips, which is a staple over there. You've got bangers and mash. You've got haggis up in Scotland. All of those are great options depending on where you're at. Now then, straying from those standard foods that are fantastic, the Brits have done a great job of incorporating Indian food into their cuisine. I think it actually literally is part of their, if you look up English food, Indian food will come up. But I can remember sitting in a pub in Manchester, we were just relaxing before a concert, and so we both decided to get some chicken tikka masala, and oh my gosh, you guys, it was amazing. Another food that Lexi has really grown to love as well is the great beans on toast. I'm not the biggest fan, I like it, but that's more of a her thing. She also really loves the full English breakfast. I like about half of it, but both are great options, things you have to try. But then something you can do if you are more like me is try a scone with some jam on it. That is really good as well. And another great morning option, or maybe littered throughout your day, is you must go to Greg's. You guys, I love Greg's. I have a short on my channel dedicated to the sausage roll. So they are brilliant. I love just waiting in line and going into a Greg's, and it's super cheap. You can get a sausage roll. I love their donuts. They have decent, cheap coffee, but if you're going to Greg's, you're primarily going for a sausage roll. I apologize, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself with the whole food side of things, but another thing I really like is digestives. If you don't know what a digestive is, it's pretty much a small cookie about yay big. It didn't come plain. It's like shortbread. It's plain. You can get it with chocolate on top, like a small layer. My favorite are the dark chocolate ones, and I love dipping them into my coffee or in my tea. You can have them straight up. They're fantastic that way too. But you have to try them if you're there. I love them. Another great thing is going to be they do chocolate very well. So Cadbury, anything from Cadbury is brilliant. They also do crisps very well. We would call them chips here in America. But there are so many great food options. Now we've made it to my favorite thing, the fifth thing that I love about the UK, and that is going to be football. And of course, for my American and Australian friends, I'm talking about soccer. But there is such a big scene for football over in the UK, and that's for good reason because the sport was invented over there. But I played soccer in college. I was a big fan of it my whole life growing up, but there was never much reciprocation from those around me other than the people who played the sport as well. But I'm telling you guys, if you're watching this video today and you're maybe a fellow American, please take the time to go indulge into a football match while you're over there in the UK. I can practically promise you that you are not going to regret it. Lexi and I have gone to a couple games over there. Our most recent one, we went to a Fulham match. They were in the championship, so that's the second division of English football. But no matter what division you go to watch, whether it be the Premier League, which is the most famous one, you've probably heard of it, or all the way down into what you would call non-league football, every city has a team, and they are all just really fun to go and experience. Each city, like I said, has one team. They might have two teams, but or more, honestly. It's such a great time. And one of the coolest things about that whole football experience and ambiance is you're going to have chants going the entire game. That doesn't really happen as much in American football, but yeah, just be prepared for really supportive chants of your own team and some somewhat, how do I say this, like rude chants towards the opposing team, but they're usually pretty funny. They're all lighthearted most of the time, but overall it is such a fun experience that I highly recommend for you to do while you're over there. Just make sure not to wear the wrong colors, especially if you're in like Manchester or Liverpool. If you're going to a certain game, wear the right colors. Now, say you want to see multiple games or multiple cities while you are in the UK. That leads me to the sixth thing that I absolutely love about the UK, which is the transportation system. The trains over there, though they sometimes get a bad rap from the people who actually live there, I think Americans love it because they are so simple. We don't have anything like that over here in the US, where we can just hop on a train, be to the next city in 15 minutes. We usually just drive. That's kind of how it works over here. But that's something I love about how things are done over there in the UK regarding transport, is the simplicity of it. Like, you can just download an app on your phone. I usually use Trainline whenever I'm over there, and I can just buy the ticket right there on my phone. I have it right there with me the whole time, and they're usually quite cheap. Like, I can't remember the exact price, but we would go from Scotland, like up in Edinburgh, down to London. It's about a 5-hour train ride, and it was a pretty fair price, all things considered. But yeah, as a poor college student like I was when I was in Wales, if it was pretty affordable for me, usually it's pretty affordable for everyone else as well to ride the trains. And then leading to my seventh thing that I absolutely love about the UK, and that is going to be, if you are on one of those train rides, you might notice how beautiful the UK is. Whether you're traveling up towards Scotland and seeing the gorgeous Highlands, or maybe you found yourself in northern Wales where I was living, you have the Snowdonia mountain range, which is just absolutely so pretty. It's so pretty. And then if you even find yourself up into Northern Ireland and looking at the Giant's Causeway and seeing how neat that is, there's so many neat and beautiful areas across the UK. And sometimes the rain gets a bad rap, but ultimately it keeps things nice and green and just alive, which is, I think, one of my favorite things. Especially, I live in the Midwest. When the snow comes around, everything in here is dead after that for a little while until spring comes. So it's really nice to see in the UK how it just keeps that greenery and that beautiful flora and fauna. There's a lot to love about the UK, and that's a big reason why Lexi and I keep going back. And it's another reason why we hopefully plan to get back over to Scotland here pretty soon. We're already kind of got a little something in the works right now, and I can't wait to get back over there. And something you can do if maybe you have that interest in Scotland as well, I made a video on Edinburgh, which you can click on either here or here. I can't remember where I put it. But feel free to click on it and watch that video as well. And until then, have a great rest of your day.